The emergency lights cast an eerie red glow through the corridors of the Star Wanderer. Captain Rax stood at the bridge's main viewport, his scaled hands clasped behind his back, as he watched pieces of his ship's outer hull drift past like dead leaves in space. The attack had come without warning. Pirates using some new kind of weapon that had torn through their shields like they weren't even there. "Life support status?" he asked, not turning around. First Officer Lin checked the displays, her clawed fingers moving quickly across the damaged control panel. 4 hours at most, Captain. The main system is failing faster than expected. Rax nodded slowly. He'd been a merchant captain for 20 cycles, but this was the first time he'd faced death so directly. The Star Wanderer's crew of 12 had survived the initial attack, but that would mean nothing if help didn't arrive soon. "The emergency beacon?" he asked. "Still transmitting," Lin replied. "But we're in the outer reaches. The nearest patrol could be days away." She paused, looking at a new alert flashing on her screen. "Captain, we're getting a response." Rax turned quickly, hope rising in his chest. "The Trade Federation?" "No." Lin's face showed confusion. "It's coming from a system that's not even part of the Federation network. A place called Earth." The bridge crew exchanged worried looks. Everyone had heard rumors about Earth, a high-gravity death world whose inhabitants had somehow survived countless extinction-level events. They weren't even full members of the galactic community yet. "How far?" Rax asked. "That's the strange part," Lin said. "They're much closer than any Federation ships. Their message says they can reach us in 6 hours. 6 hours. Chief Engineer Max snorted from his damage control station. "With their primitive drives, impossible." Rax walked over to the main computer, studying the message himself. The humans were offering immediate assistance, claiming they had experience with deep space rescue operations. It seemed unlikely. Earth had only achieved faster-than-light travel in the last decade. "We don't have much choice," Lin said quietly. "Life support won't last until Federation help arrives." Rax clicked his teeth together, a gesture of frustration among his people. "What do we know about these humans?" "Actually, no, not just stories." Max pulled up the galactic database on his screen. "Not much. They're classified as an emerging spacefaring species. Their technology is considered basic." He scrolled through more data. "But they're marked as extremely resourceful and unusually resistant to environmental hazards." "There's something else," Lin added, her voice dropping. "Their homeworld's gravity is 1.4 times our standard. They evolve as pursuit predators." The bridge fell silent. Everyone knew what that meant. Humans were naturally stronger, faster, and more durable than most species. They had evolved to chase prey until it collapsed from exhaustion, a hunting method that seemed barbaric to civilized species. Another piece of hull drifted past the viewport, spinning slowly in the starlight. The ship's groaning was getting louder. "Captain," the ship's doctor called over the comm. "2 more crew members are showing signs of radiation sickness. Our shielding is failing in sections 3 through 7. Rax looked at his crew's faces. They were all professionals, but he could see the fear growing. Without proper radiation shielding, they'd die before the life support even failed. "Send the humans our acceptance," he ordered finally. "But keep all weapon systems on standby, damaged or not." "Yes, Captain," Lin replied, quickly sending the response. Almost immediately, they received another message. It was simple and direct. "Rescue ship launching now. Hold tight. We're coming." Rax returned to the viewport, watching the endless starfield. He'd spent his career dealing with advanced technology and civilized species. Now his crew's survival depended on help from a species that had barely left their own planet. "May the void grant us wisdom," he muttered, using an old space prayer. "And may these humans be as capable as they claim." Behind him, the emergency lights continued their crimson pulse, counting down the minutes until either rescue or death arrived. Major Tom Reynolds was in the middle of his morning coffee when the alert came through. He'd been about to start his vacation, his first in 3 years, when every screen in Earth's Deep Space Rescue Command lit up with alien distress signals. "What do we have?" he asked, walking onto the command floor. His coffee could wait. Commander Wilson turned from the main display, her face serious. "Merchant vessel, non-Federation design. Hit by pirates. They got multiple hull breaches and failing life support." Reynolds studied the alien ship's specs on the screen. Location: edge of the Carina sector. "They're lucky our new deep space array picked up their signal." Wilson paused. "But there's a catch. They're not human." First contact situation. Reynolds raised an eyebrow. He'd trained for this, but no one had expected it to happen during a rescue mission. "Not exactly. They know about us, but..." Wilson brought up more data. "They're from an advanced civilization. They think we're primitives. Command's worried we might make Earth look bad if we mess this up." Reynolds walked to the equipment readout station. "How long do they have?" 4 hours of life support, probably less with the radiation leaks they're reporting." "Then it doesn't matter what they think of us," Reynolds said firmly. "We're going." Wilson nodded, but looked concerned. "The brass wants to send one of the new automated rescue ships, all the latest tech, AI-controlled. They think it'll impress the aliens more." Reynolds picked up his rescue suit from his locker, not the shiny new models, but his old, trusted Mark IV. It was scratched and patched in places, but it had never failed him. Those AIs work great in simulations, but this is real life. These aliens need someone who can think on their feet. The automatic ship tests better in every category, Wilson argued, though he could tell she was already convinced. "Yeah." Reynolds started suiting up. "Ask it to make a split-second decision about which hull breach to patch first, while talking down a panicked alien crew and watching for pirates who might come back. Some things need a human touch." The command room had gone quiet, everyone watching. Reynolds had saved more lives in deep space than any other rescue specialist. If anyone could pull this off, it was him. "What ship are you taking?" Wilson asked, already entering commands to start the launch sequence. "The Bulldog." Reynolds checked his suit seals. The Bulldog was an older rescue vessel, built more like a space-worthy tank than the sleek new ships. It wasn't pretty, but it could take a beating and keep going. "That ship's older than half the people in this room," someone muttered. "Exactly," Reynolds said, picking up his toolkit. "Which means I know every bolt and wire in her. No surprises." Commander Wilson made one last attempt to follow protocol. "The new ships are 4 times faster on paper." Reynolds smiled. "On paper. But they haven't factored in the shortcuts, I know." He headed for the launch bay. "And I'm betting those aliens care more about surviving than how shiny their rescue ship is." "Command's not going to like this," Wilson called after him. "Command can fire me after we save those people," Reynolds shouted back. Then he was gone, heading for his ship with the same purposeful stride that had carried him through countless rescues. 10 minutes later, the Bulldog's engines roared to life. It wasn't the most elegant ship in Earth's fleet. Its hull was thick and scarred, its lines more functional than beautiful. But as it rose from the launch pad, even the doubters had to admit it moved with surprising grace. "Bulldog launching," Reynolds' voice came over the comm. "Next stop, first contact." As the ship disappeared into the stars, Commander Wilson smiled. She'd already decided not to tell Reynolds that Command had actually chosen him for this mission from the start. After all, when you need a miracle, you send your best miracle worker. The Star Wanderer's crew watched in disbelief as the human rescue ship appeared on their sensors. It had arrived 2 hours earlier than expected, looking nothing like the sleek vessels they were used to seeing. "That can't be right," Engineer Max said, staring at the readings. "Their ship is using chemical rockets as backup engines." Captain Rax leaned forward in his command chair. The human vessel was built like a space-going fortress, with thick armor plates and what looked like manual repair tools attached to its hull. "They're hailing us," First Officer Lin reported. The voice that came through was calm and professional. Star Wanderer, this is Major Tom Reynolds of Earth Deep Space Rescue. I can see you've got 3 major hull breaches and your radiation shielding is failing. I'm starting my approach now. Before anyone could respond, the human ship was already moving, its course so precise it surprised even the veteran crew. Reynolds wasn't using the standard automated docking systems. He was flying manually. Impressive reaction time, Lin muttered, watching the human ship smoothly match their rotation. The rescue ship locked onto their hull with a solid clank that echoed through the ship. Minutes later, they heard metallic footsteps approaching the airlock. When the inner door opened, the alien crew couldn't hide their shock. Reynolds stood there in what looked like ancient technology. A bulky white suit with visible patches and mechanical joints. No force fields, no anti-radiation coating, not even basic gravitic stabilizers. Your suit, Max blurted out. It's not safe in these radiation levels. Reynolds checked a simple mechanical gauge on his wrist. This old thing. It's lead-lined. Low-tech, but it works. Now, show me those hull breaches. The human moved with surprising speed and confidence in the failing artificial gravity. While Max tried to explain their advanced repair systems, Reynolds was already pulling out simple tools and patching materials. But our hull is made of adaptive alloys, Max protested. You can't just. Reynolds was already working, his movements quick and precise. Sometimes the old ways work best. Your fancy alloy still holds a patch if you know how to apply it right. He looked up at the shocked engineer. Had to do something similar on a mining vessel last year. Different metal. Same principle. The human worked steadily, explaining each step to the amazed alien crew. He used simple tools and basic materials, but his techniques were flawless. When the ship's automated systems failed to seal a breach, Reynolds simply switched to manual controls and did it himself. How are you moving so fast in this gravity? Lin asked, watching Reynolds easily carry repair equipment that would have taken 2 of their crew to lift. This is nothing. Earth's gravity is way stronger. Reynolds secured another patch, then checked his readings. Radiation levels dropping. 2 more breaches to go. Captain Rax observed the humans' work with growing respect. Their most advanced systems had failed to fix the damage. Yet this primitive human was making repairs with nothing but basic tools and experience. We thought. Rax started carefully. We expected. Reynolds grinned inside his helmet. Expected some fancy automated system. Sometimes you need human hands on the job. He moved to the next breach. Besides, machines can't improvise like this. As if to prove his point, he used a piece of debris and some emergency sealant to create a temporary patch that their ship's computer insisted was impossible. Your technology, Max said, still struggling to understand. It's so basic. Basic means reliable, Reynolds replied, already working on the final breach. And reliable means you get to go home alive. The alien crew watched in silence as the human continued his work. They had expected their rescue to come from some advanced civilization, with technology beyond their understanding. Instead, they got a single human with simple tools and decades of experience. And somehow, that was exactly what they needed. Reynolds was sealing the last hull breach when the Star Wanderer's sensors started beeping. First Officer Lin checked the readings twice, her scaled hands shaking slightly. Captain, she called out. 3 ships just dropped out of hyperspace. Same energy signatures as our attackers. Captain Rax's face darkened. They're back to finish what they started. How long until they're in weapons range? Reynolds asked calmly, not stopping his work. 4 minutes, Max replied. But it doesn't matter. Our weapons are dead, and even your ship's primitive guns can't hurt their shields. Reynolds finished the patch with a final seal. Those would be the fancy purple shields they use, right? The ones that stop energy weapons. Yes, Lin said. Latest pirate technology. Nothing gets through them. Reynolds smiled inside his helmet. Good thing I don't use energy weapons then. He pushed off the hull and started floating toward his ship. Captain Rax, I need to get to the Bulldog. Can your crew handle the rest of the repairs? The alien captain nodded, confused by the human's relaxed attitude. Yes, but what are you planning? Something stupid, Reynolds replied cheerfully. The best kind of plan against overconfident pirates. He reached his ship and quickly entered through the airlock. Lynn, can you patch me into your ship's comm system? I want to hear what these pirates have to say. A harsh voice crackled through the speakers moments later. Well, the little merchant ship found a friend. The pirate leader laughed. And what's this? An Earth ship. This gets better and better. 2 prizes for the price of 1. Reynolds' voice came back cool and professional. This is Major Tom Reynolds, Earth Deep Space Rescue. The Star Wanderer is under my protection. Leave now. The pirate's laughter grew louder. Protection. In that ancient heap of junk. Your weapons can't even scratch our shields. Last warning, Reynolds said calmly. Leave, or I'll have to get creative. The Star Wanderer's crew watched in amazement as the Bulldog suddenly came to life. The old rescue ship moved with surprising speed, its engines firing in short, precise bursts. What is he doing? Max asked, watching Reynolds pilot his ship in an odd pattern. Those maneuvers make no sense. Captain Rax studied the movement carefully. He's not running away. He's gathering debris. They watched as the Bulldog used its magnetic grapples to collect pieces of the Star Wanderer's hull that had been blown off in the first attack. Reynolds was turning space junk into a weapon. 30 seconds to weapons range, Lynn reported. The pirate ships approached in a standard attack formation, their purple shields glowing brightly. They clearly weren't worried about the single Earth ship. Time to teach these pirates some Earth history, Reynolds said over the comm. Ever heard of how ancient sailors used to deal with pirates? They didn't always need fancy weapons. Before anyone could ask what he meant, the Bulldog sprang into action. Reynolds had loaded the debris into his ship's cargo launcher, a simple device meant for delivering repair supplies to damaged ships. But now it was aimed at the pirates. Impossible, Max whispered. He's going to. The cargo launcher fired, sending chunks of the Star Wanderer's own hull flying at the pirate ships. The debris moved at incredible speeds, accelerated by the Bulldog's powerful magnetic systems. The pirates realized too late what was happening. Their shields were designed to stop energy weapons, not solid objects moving at high velocity. The debris tore through their protective bubble like it wasn't even there. How? The pirate leader screamed as his shields flickered. Your weapons are primitive. Sometimes primitive is exactly what you need, Reynolds replied, already lining up his next shot. Now, about that warning I gave you. The Star Wanderer's crew watched in stunned silence as a single human in an obsolete ship turned their own lost hull pieces into a weapon that had the feared pirates scrambling to escape. Space combat, it seemed, still had room for old-fashioned ingenuity. The pirate ships scattered after Reynolds' first attack, but they didn't retreat. Instead, they regrouped, their damaged shields flickering as they prepared for another assault. They're charging weapons, Lynn reported from the Star Wanderer's bridge. All 3 ships. Good, Reynolds said through the comm. That means they're angry. Angry people make mistakes. He turned the Bulldog sharply, positioning it between the pirates and the merchant ship. Captain Rax, is your engine room still intact? Yes, but our engines are dead, Rax replied. They're not dead. They just need a jump start. Reynolds' fingers flew across his control panel. Engineer Max, remember how you said my ship's systems were primitive? Well, that's about to save your life. I'm sending over a power cable. Max watched in disbelief as a thick cable shot out from the Bulldog's hull. That's a physical power connection. Nobody uses those anymore. Exactly why the pirates won't expect it, Reynolds said. Connect it to your engine's emergency protocols. Quick. The pirates chose that moment to attack. Energy beams sliced through space, but Reynolds was already moving. The Bulldog danced between the beams with surprising agility for such an old ship. "Connected," Max shouted, "but our engines need time to." Raw power surged through the cable from the Bulldog's engines. The Star Wanderer's lights flickered, then blazed to full brightness. Warning alarms blared as ancient backup systems roared to life. "Impossible," one of the pirates transmitted. "Their engines were completely destroyed." Reynolds grinned as he launched another volley of debris. Rule 1 of space rescue: nothing's completely destroyed if you know how to restart it. The pirate ships tried to dodge, but Reynolds had timed his attack perfectly. The debris caught one ship's engine, sending it spinning out of formation. Its shields failed completely. "Now for the fun part," Reynolds said. "Captain Rax, your ship has manual controls, right? Old ones, for emergency steering." "Yes, but nobody uses those except in training," Rax answered. "Time to remember that training. On my mark, fire your engines at full power. Aim for the gap between those two pirate ships." The pirate leader's voice crackled through the comm again. "Whatever you're planning, human, it won't work. Your primitive tricks can't save you forever." "They don't need to," Reynolds replied. "They just need to work once." He fired the Bulldog's remaining debris straight at the pirates' front shields. The pirates easily dodged this time, exactly as Reynolds had planned. "Now, Captain." The Star Wanderer's engines roared to life. The sudden burst of power, combined with the Bulldog's emergency cable, created a massive electromagnetic pulse. The pulse wasn't strong enough to harm modern ships, but the pirates' shields were already damaged and fluctuating. The pulse hit their shield generators at exactly the right frequency. All three pirate ships went dark as their shields collapsed completely. "How?" the pirate leader demanded. "That shouldn't be possible." "You relied too much on your fancy shields," Reynolds explained, already lining up his final shot. "Sometimes the old ways work better. Like now, for instance." He fired the Bulldog's front guns, simple, solid metal projectiles that no space navy had used in decades. Without their shields, the pirates had no defense against such basic weapons. "We surrender," the pirate leader shouted as metal slugs punched through his ship's hull. "Please, we surrender." Reynolds kept his guns aimed at the pirates. "Captain Rax, I believe the local authorities would be interested in these gentlemen. Shall we call them?" The Star Wanderer's crew stared in amazement at their view screens. Three of the most advanced pirate ships in the sector, defeated by what they had thought was primitive human technology. "I don't understand," Max said quietly. "Everything they had was more advanced than your equipment." "Advanced isn't always better," Reynolds replied, watching the pirates power down their weapons. "Sometimes you just need something that works." 2 hours after the battle, the Star Wanderer's crew gathered in their repaired mess hall. Local authorities had taken the pirates into custody, and Reynolds was helping Max finish the last of the engine repairs. "I still can't believe it worked," Lynn said, watching Reynolds handle heavy engine parts with ease. "Everything he used was so basic." "Basic but effective," Captain Rax replied. He was reading something on his data pad, his eyes growing wider with each line. "And now I understand why." The crew gathered around as their captain continued. "I just got access to the full galactic database entry on humans. It was restricted before, but as first contact has been made." He looked up at Reynolds. "You're from a death world." Reynolds paused his work. "Is that what you call Earth? We just call it home." "A death world," Max whispered, suddenly understanding. "That's why you're so strong, why the radiation didn't bother you as much. Your planet should have killed your species dozens of times over." Reynolds shrugged and went back to fixing the engine. "Earth's tried to kill us plenty of times. We just got better at surviving." Lynn pulled up the data on her own pad. "Look at these numbers. Their planet has active volcanoes, regular earthquakes, extreme weather patterns, dangerous wildlife, and She stopped, shocked. Their gravity is nearly 1.5 times galactic standard. That explains a lot, Max said, watching Reynolds lift a piece of equipment that would normally require their cargo loader. They evolved in conditions that would kill most species. Not just the gravity, Rax added, still reading. Their planet's radiation levels are higher than standard, their temperature range is extreme, and they evolved as pursuit predators. He looked at Reynolds with new respect. No wonder you weren't afraid of those pirates. Reynolds finished tightening a bolt and wiped his hands on his suit. Speaking of pirates, I've been meaning to ask. Those shields they used, the ones that stop energy weapons, they've been causing trouble in other sectors too, haven't they? Yes, Rax admitted. Most modern ships rely on energy weapons. Nobody expected physical projectiles. It was innovative. Sometimes the old ways are the best ways, Reynolds said, closing the engine panel. We humans learned it the hard way. Every time we thought we had the perfect solution, nature found a way to break it. So we learned to keep the simple solutions around, just in case. Like using manual controls. Lynn asked. Exactly. Computers can fail. Engines can die. But as long as you have a backup plan, even a primitive one, you've got a chance. Captain Rax set down his datapad. The Federation's going to want to hear about this. A species from a death world, using simple technology in ways we never considered. He shook his head in amazement. They're going to want to know everything about Earth. Well, they can start with thank you, Reynolds said with a grin. Engine's fixed, by the way. Want to test it? The engine roared to life at Max's touch, running smoother than it had before the attack. The engineer stared at his readings in disbelief. How? Even our best repair yards couldn't have fixed it this well. Because they would have tried to fix it the new way, Reynolds explained. Sometimes you need to strip everything back to basics. Speaking of which, he checked his suit's simple mechanical clock. My coffee back on Earth is probably cold by now. The crew laughed, but there was respect in their eyes now. They had expected a primitive rescuer from a backwater planet. Instead, they got a glimpse of why humans were becoming known across the galaxy as the species that simply refused to die. You know, Captain Rax said thoughtfully, I think the pirates did us a favor. Without them, we might never have learned what humans are really capable of. Oh, you haven't seen anything yet, Reynolds replied with a smile. Just wait until you meet the rest of us. 1 month after the rescue of the Star Wanderer, Major Tom Reynolds sat in Earth's Deep Space Rescue Command, staring at his desk in disbelief. Hundreds of messages filled his screen, all from alien merchant ships requesting human rescue teams. Commander Wilson walked in with 2 cups of coffee. Famous now, aren't you? I don't understand, Reynolds said, taking the offered coffee. Why would advanced ships want our help? We're supposed to be the primitives. Haven't you heard? Wilson smiled. Captain Rax's report to the Federation changed everything. The Star Wanderer's crew posted their rescue footage on the galactic networks. You're a bit of a legend out there. Reynolds took a sip of his coffee, hot this time. A legend. For using old equipment and basic tools. For getting the job done, Wilson corrected him. The Federation Council wants to talk about a formal alliance. Turns out being from a death world has its advantages. She handed him a data pad showing the latest news. The Federation had already started implementing some of Earth's primitive backup systems on their ships. Manual controls were being reinstalled. Physical tools were being added to automated repair bays. Look at this one, Wilson said, pointing to another message. The Federation's biggest trading company wants to hire human cargo guards. Apparently, pirates are less likely to attack ships with humans on board now. Reynolds laughed. Because of one rescue. Because you showed them what humans can do with basic tools and experience. They're calling it the human approach, keeping simple solutions as backup for advanced technology. A new alert flashed on Reynolds' screen. Another distress call, this time from a Federation science vessel. Their advanced navigation system had failed, leaving them stranded. "Want to show them more human tricks?" Wilson asked. Reynolds was already reaching for his old rescue suit. They had got artificial gravity and automated repair systems, the latest models. "Then they're probably not ready for me to fix it with a wrench and some wire." Reynolds grinned. "This should be fun." Before he left, Wilson handed him one more message. "The Star Wanderer's crew sent this. Thought you'd want to see it." The message showed the merchant ship, fully repaired and upgraded. They'd added kinetic weapons as backup for their energy guns. A small Earth flag had been painted next to their ship's name. "First of many," Wilson said. "The Federation's starting to realize that sometimes the old ways are the best ways, and nobody does old ways better than humans." Reynolds headed for the launch bay, his trusted toolkit in hand. In the months since the rescue, Earth's position in the galaxy had changed dramatically. Their primitive technology and deathworld adaptations weren't seen as weaknesses anymore. They were advantages. The Bulldog waited in its bay, still scared but proud. Engineers had wanted to upgrade it with new technology, but Reynolds had refused. The old ship had proven that sometimes the simplest solution was the best one. "You know what the best part is?" Wilson called after him. "The pirates are terrified of human ships now. They can't figure out what other primitive tricks we might have." Reynolds laughed as he climbed into the Bulldog's cockpit. "Wait until they find out about duct tape." As the rescue ship lifted off, Reynolds thought about how much had changed. 1 month ago, Earth had been seen as a backwater planet full of primitives. Now they were becoming known as the species you called when all the fancy solutions failed. The Federation was learning what pirates, predators, and natural disasters had learned over thousands of years on Earth. Never underestimate a species that had survived everything that Deathworld could throw at them. "Bulldog launching," Reynolds reported. "Time to show the galaxy more human ingenuity." Behind him, Earth's sun rose over the horizon, illuminating a planet that had tried and failed to kill its children countless times. Instead, it had created something unique, a species that could face any challenge with nothing but simple tools and stubborn determination. And the galaxy was better for it.